What inspired this project was to capture the stories and oral histories of a generation of Irish people whose quite often stories were never shared before. And so we recruited 60, 70 community historians to go out there with recording apparatus and recording histories and testimonies up and down the country and paint a picture of the Irish experience in Britain, which is unique given the history and the politics and the social connections. Irish people and the diaspora have a strong history of organising, adaptation, of flexibility, new partnerships. And I think that's a really important message in the context of today. Irishness is not fixed, it is changing. And if you take a walk down Trafalgar Square or Birmingham for St. Patrick's Day, you'll see the diversity of the people involved. We think that's a very exciting and positive thing. You know, we see young people wearing an Irish jersey one day and an England jersey the other day, and that is absolutely fine. And the tension that we might have experienced in something like that is very, very different now, and we think that's a really positive thing.
Really hope we have done you proud. Gora Mila Mahagut.
The experiences that people went through 25, 50 years ago, it was a time so recent, yet with very limited communication, particularly for the vast majority of immigrants from Ireland. So they may have only written a letter home from time to time or a very occasional phone call. And when they did, I think the last thing that they really wanted to do, and this was true for my family, was worry needlessly the family at home. And just to give that impression that everything was grand, everything's fine, yeah, we're doing okay. So I do wonder how much of that real struggle was really understood. For our younger generation, like for my children, who have little concept of what we actually went through, you know, they listen on in disbelief, because for them, they can celebrate their Irishness amongst their friends and work colleagues and in the wider world and enjoy that. So I think for me, it's the understanding that kind of trauma and struggle, it can take generations for healing to really take place.
Well, I was born and brought up in Birmingham. My father was from Lucan in County Dublin, and I spent every summer in the school holidays here in Dublin, actually. One of the things that's important for me as a second generation Irishman is to recognise that identity isn't static, it changes. It learns from other identities and it sometimes mirrors them, and sometimes it informs them and encourages them to change, and I think that's important too. So Irish identity for Irish people living in Ireland will have changed. The identity of Irish people in Britain has changed too, and it's informed by lots of other emigrant communities, it's informed by lots of different types of working environments. It's actually informed by having less association with one particular brand of Christianity, and I think that's important too, is that to get to a place where we recognise that Irish people aren't necessarily white, aren't necessarily Catholic, aren't necessarily straight, aren't necessarily the way they were in 1950, is a very important learning, and it's a really important lesson that people who are in those categories have to learn too.